I never meant to stay the night. That's important for you to understand. I was just exploring, same as always. Another decayed landmark to cross off my list. But the Briarwood Hotel wasn't just abandoned, it was hungry. The place had been closed for decades. They said the last guests vanished, staff included, sometime in the 70s. No explanation, no survivors. The police sealed the building, and over the years, the city grew around it. But no one tore it down. They said the land was cursed, that anyone who tried to demolish it met with accidents. A fall, a fire, a heart attack. Always sudden, always fatal. That should have been enough to keep me away. But curiosity is a sickness, and the Briarwood was too perfect to resist. I entered through a side door, half buried under ivy. The hinges groaned, but the sound died quickly as if swallowed. Inside, the lobby stretched wide, dust swirling in my light. The chandelier hung crooked, its crystals dull. Chairs were overturned, suitcases still waiting by the desk, like the guests had only just stepped out. But the strangest thing was the clock. It hung behind the counter, massive, gilded, its hands frozen at midnight. Yet the ticking filled the room, loud, precise, each second hammered into my skull. I told myself it was just nerves, just echoes. I started filming, narrating in a shaky voice. My boots crunched on the carpet that had rotted to threads. The smell of mold and iron pressed close. The first floor was easy enough. Hallways lined with faded wallpaper, doors hanging open. Inside the rooms, beds were made, lamps still stood. In one, a tray of food sat on the desk, the meat black with rot but untouched by insects. In another, a mirror was shattered, though my reflection seemed whole. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing behind me, but when I turned, the room was empty. I should have left then. Instead, I climbed the stairs. The second floor was worse. The air grew heavy, damp like a storm building inside the walls. My flashlight dimmed, though the batteries were fresh. And the rooms? God, the rooms were wrong. In one, the wallpaper pulsed, swelling and shrinking as if it breathed. In another, the bed was soaked with blood, but no body lay there, just the outline of one, pressed deep into the mattress, as though it had sunk into the fabric itself. The ticking followed me. Louder now, not just from the lobby clock, but from every room, every corner. The sound pressed in until it matched my heartbeat. I tried to leave. I really did. I turned back for the stairs, but the lobby wasn't there. Instead, another hallway stretched before me, identical to the last. Doors lined in perfect symmetry, shadows pooling beneath them. I walked faster, panic rising. But every door I opened led to the same thing, my own room. My own bag, my own footprints in the dust. The hotel had closed its jaws around me. Time warped. Minutes stretched into hours, hours into days. My flashlight burned out. My phone died. But the ticking never stopped. I drank from the bathroom taps, ate the stale crackers I'd packed. Sleep came in violent bursts, filled with dreams of guests wandering the halls with hollow eyes, their mouths ticking like clocks. On the third night, or what I think was the third, I found the ballroom. It was beautiful once, I could tell. Chandeliers glittered with cobwebs, the floor polished to a dull shine. But now it was filled. With people, hundreds of them. They stood in perfect rows, dressed in clothes decades out of date. Suits, gowns, uniforms, their faces pale, eyes wide, skin stretched thin, and all of them turned to look at me. Their mouths opened, and the ticking poured out. Not voices. Not screams, just the sound of clocks, hundreds of them in unison. I stumbled back, but hands gripped me. Cold skeletal hands pulling me into the crowd. I thrashed, screamed, begged, but they held me fast, and the ballroom shifted. The chandeliers blazed with fresh light. The band struck up a tune, though no one played. The dancers moved in perfect rhythm, their bodies jerking like marionettes. And I was among them, dragged into the waltz, my feet moving, though I didn't will them. We spun and turned, the music swelling, the ticking pounding until I thought my skull would split. Faces blurred past me, mouths clicking open and shut in mechanical rhythm. And then the clock struck 1. Everything stopped. The dancers froze. The music died. The hands around me loosened. And in the silence I heard it, a whisper, right against my ear. "Your time is ours now." I blacked out. When I woke, I was lying outside the hotel. The sun burned my eyes. My bag was gone. My camera gone. My watch shattered. Its hands frozen at 1 o'clock. I thought I was free, but that was last month. And every night since, I've heard the ticking again. Louder, closer. I checked the clock in my apartment yesterday. The hands don't move anymore. And last night when I woke, I wasn't in my bed. I was standing in the Briarwood lobby, the chandelier waiting above me. The clock behind the desk frozen at 2. I thought it was dead. Everyone did. A carcass of industry left to rot on the edge of town. Its smokestacks hollow, its windows shattered, its machines silent. But factories don't die. They wait. The Holloway textile mill closed in the late 80s. Layoffs, bankruptcies, strikes that turned violent. Rumors spread that some workers never left, that the last shift ended in blood. The papers called it an accident. Locals called it a massacre. Either way, the factory gates were welded shut. People avoided the place except me. I'd heard the stories. I wanted to see what was true. I broke in through a side door, the metal eaten thin by rust. Inside, the air hit me first. Thick, greasy, like oil and smoke still clung to the walls. Dust swirled in the beam of my flashlight. But beneath it, the air felt alive, humming faintly, as though the machine still dreamed of motion. The factory floor stretched wide, rows of looms and spindles frozen mid-motion. Cobwebs laced the gears, yet the belts seemed tight, waiting for power. A catwalk crisscrossed above, and broken skylights leaked moonlight onto the stained concrete. I told myself it was just another ruin. Nothing more. I started filming. That's when I noticed the dust, or rather the lack of it. The floor between the machines was thick with it, undisturbed for decades. But the walkways? The stairs? They were clean, as though someone still used them. I kept moving, past the assembly line, past the boilers. My boots echoed too loud, as if the walls amplified every sound. And then I heard something new, a rhythm. At first I thought it was my heartbeat hammering in my ears, but no, it was steadier, mechanical. The sound of gears grinding, faint but growing. I froze. My light darted across the machines. They were still. But the sound kept building. Clack, clack, clack. I turned toward the far end of the floor. That's when I saw it. One of the looms was moving. The wheel turned slow, deliberate, though no power ran through the factory. The shuttle slid back and forth, threads tightening across the frame. My breath caught. It wasn't just weaving. It was spelling something, across the fabric in crude, jagged letters. Welcome back. I stumbled backward, my light shaking, and that's when the others came alive. One by one, the machines roared to life. Belts spun. Gears screamed. Needles stabbed in furious rhythm. Dust exploded into the air as though shaken from slumber. The noise was deafening, a storm of motion that should have been impossible without power. I ran. Through the maze of machines, ducking belts that whipped past, leaping over gears that bit the air. The floor shook with their rhythm. Clack, 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 like 1,000 hearts beating in unison. I turned a corner and stopped dead. Workers stood there, dozens of them, their uniforms shredded, their skin blackened with soot. Faces pale, eyes hollow. They moved with the same rhythm as the machines, arms jerking, jaws grinding open and shut. Some dragged tools behind them, wrenches and hammers dripping with something dark. And they all turned toward me. I bolted up the stairs to the catwalk. My boots clanged on the metal, the sound drowned by the machines below. The workers followed, their movements stiff but relentless. I could hear them climbing behind me, the clang of their tools against the rails. At the end of the catwalk was an office. I slammed the door shut, heart pounding, and turned my light across the room. Desks, filing cabinets, paper scattered, yellow with age. But on the wall was something worse. Blueprints, not of machines, not of textiles, of people. Drawings of bodies dissected and reassembled with gears in place of joints, threads for veins. Scribbled notes described efficiency, endless labor, and perfect obedience, and scrawled across the bottom in thick black ink. The factory does not end. The door shuddered. Bangs echoed as fists slammed against it. Metal screeched as tools tore at the hinges. I looked for another way out and saw the window. I didn't hesitate. I smashed the glass, ignoring the cuts, and climbed onto the ledge. Below me, the machines thundered, the workers swarmed. The drop would break me, but staying would be worse, so I jumped. Pain ripped through me as I hit the floor. My ankle snapped. My vision blurred. But I crawled, dragging myself through the dust toward the door I'd broken in through. The machine slowed behind me. The clacking softened, and then silence. When I reached the outside, the air hit me like salvation. Cold, real, the night alive with crickets. I didn't look back. I crawled until I reached the road where headlights found me. Someone called for help. They said I was lucky to survive, but I know better. Because last night, I woke to a sound in my apartment. Clack, clack, clack. I limped to the living room, heart frozen, and saw it. A loom. Sitting in the corner, thread pulling itself across the frame, and on the fabric, my name, being woven, over and over. I wasn't looking for it. That's what still terrifies me. I wasn't chasing urban legends or digging through old maps this time. I was just driving, just trying to clear my head after a fight after too many nights without sleep. And then the road turned, the trees parted, and there it was. The house, it shouldn't have been there. I'd driven that road 100 times before and never once had I seen it. But that night it stood at the end of a gravel path, tall and silent, its windows black. Something inside me whispered to keep going, to pretend I hadn't seen it. But my hands turned the wheel anyway. The gravel crunched under my tires, the air grew colder, heavier. And before I knew it, I was standing at the front door, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The wood was swollen with age, but when I touched it, it swung open. Inside was silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of listening. The air smelled of dust and iron. The wallpaper peeled in long strips, curling like skin. Furniture sat in perfect order. Chairs, tables, lamps, untouched yet coated in decades of grime. My light caught family photos on the walls, their faces blurred as though water had run through them. I whispered, "Hello?" The floor creaked back. I told myself it was the house settling. But my skin prickled, my breath grew shallow. I should have left. I didn't. I stepped deeper, each board groaning underfoot. The first room was a living room. The couch sagged, the television cracked. But the coffee table was wrong. On it sat a single object, a picture frame, and inside it, me. Not now. Not as I was. But as a child. 5, maybe 6 years old, smiling in a park I didn't recognize. The frame shook in my hands as I picked it up. My voice cracked. "What the hell?" A sound cut me off. Footsteps. Upstairs, slow, deliberate. One after another, as though someone wanted me to hear. I froze. My light trembled across the ceiling, but the boards only groaned. I forced myself to move, drawn by fear and curiosity in equal measure. The stairs loomed, each one complaining under my weight. Halfway up, the air shifted, colder, sharper. My skin felt too tight. My teeth ached. At the top was a hallway. Doors on both sides, all closed. The footsteps had stopped. I opened the first door. Inside was a bedroom. Neat, except for the bed. The bed was occupied. A figure lay there, turned toward the wall. Pale skin stretched over sharp bones. Black hair fanned across the pillow. I whispered, "Are you okay?" The figure rolled toward me, and it was me, my own face, but dead. The eyes were glassy, the skin mottled with blue. The mouth sagged open, a whisper leaking out in my own voice. "You shouldn't have come here." I stumbled back, slamming the door shut. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the flashlight. I wanted to run, but the hallway stretched too long, bending away, each door pulsing like a heartbeat. I opened another. This room was filled with photographs. Thousands of them. Pinned to the walls, scattered across the floor. Every single one was me, different ages, different places. Some I remembered. Some I didn't. Some hadn't happened yet. And in every photo, someone else was there. A shadow. Always behind me. Sometimes close, sometimes far. Sometimes its hand was on my shoulder. Sometimes it was inside the reflection of my eye. The walls groaned. The photos fluttered. And I realized the shadow wasn't in this room anymore. It was in the hallway. I turned. My light caught it. A figure, tall, faceless, its body stretched too thin. It stood at the far end, its head tilted as though curious. Its fingers brushed the floor, long and sharp. It didn't move. But the hallway did. The walls bent toward me. The floor slanted. The doors slammed open one by one. Behind each was another version of me. Dead, rotting, burned, drowned, screaming. My own voices rose together, a choir of agony that filled the house. I ran. The hallway twisted, stretched, folded back on itself. No matter which door I chose, I ended up in another room filled with myself. I screamed until my throat tore, but the shadow only watched, patient, waiting. Finally, I found the stairs. I stumbled down, nearly breaking my neck, and burst into the living room. The front door loomed ahead. I sprinted, lungs burning, tears blinding me, and then I stopped. Because the coffee table had changed. The picture frame no longer showed me as a child. It showed me now, standing in the living room, holding the flashlight. Behind me, in the photo, the shadow leaned close, its hand on my shoulder. I dropped the frame, screaming, and tore through the front door. I didn't stop running until the trees opened and the road reappeared. My car waited, engine cold. I drove until dawn, until the house was miles behind me. But here's the thing, I've tried to go back, I've driven that road a dozen times since, and the house isn't there, it was never there. But the photos are. I find them every morning, slipped under my door, stuck to my mirror, waiting on my pillow when I wake. Photos of me, always from behind, always with the shadow closer. And tonight, the latest photo showed something new. Not the house, not the forest, my bedroom taken from the corner while I was asleep.